Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We're not going to be talking about animals today. I've been off for quite a while because I've been on my skin journey, which I think I mentioned in another video. It was mainly because of my hands, but then it sort of flared up on my face as well. So I thought, I don't feel like doing a YouTube video. Um, and the last thing I felt like doing was covering it all up with makeup because I knew it would just make it worse. So instead of you watching and looking at a blotched face covered in loads of, eczema and stuff, I thought I'm just going to let it calm down, get better, and then I can tell you about it. So today is actually about my skin journey. So for those of you who suffer from eczema, this might be of interest. I had it as a child, and I'm sure anyone who does suffer from it or has suffered from it as a child, it was always in between here and then the back of your legs as well. It was always just very itchy and sore. And then as a teenager, oh, it was awful. So, most people have spots. And yeah, okay, you might take the mickey, or someone will be like, oh, she's got a massive spot. At least you know what it is. Whereas I would come with this like yellow crusty stuff over my lip or like a patch randomly here. And people were like, oh, what the hell's that? You know what teenagers are like as well. So I was always very, very self-conscious as a teenager. But luckily it wasn't constant, it wasn't all the time. I would just have these flare-ups every now and again. And it always seemed to be a lot worse in winter just because of the weather. It was so much colder. And then as I got older, it kind of settled down a little bit. But then it was still slightly erratic. In the summer it would be better, but then in the winter I would always have it, but maybe not for so long. Anyway, for the last 5 years now, it's just been always on my hands. And it's weird because I have documented it. I took lots of pictures and I'll show you a few here. Sorry, pardon me. And it would sort of swap over per year. So sometimes I would have a patch here on this hand, and then the following year it would be on the other hand, but in a different place. And then sometimes it would be this finger and that finger. So it all just kind of was still on my hands, but in random places for some reason. And I used to just sort of get on with it. Because I was like, well, it's not, it could be worse, it's not like my mental health or anything, it's just skin. Um, but they do sometimes go hand in hand. And I think it was actually my mother, she's always been very, very supportive when it comes to my skin and trying to find a solution. So I feel like she's been along with my journey the whole time, being so supportive, which has been wonderful. But she said, I do notice when your skin's worse, you're not in such a great mood. And I thought, oh no, that's awful. I want to be in a good mood. Um, and I just, I think I should just be able to get on with it. But if you haven't had it before, just imagine you've got an itch. Now, usually when you scratch it, you're like, ah, oh, relief, wonderful, that's it. Imagine you get relief for maybe a minute, and then it's itchy again, and then it's itchy again, and again, and again. And the more that you scratch this area, it's going to make things worse, but you can't stop. That's what's very, very hard. It gets to the point where you cannot not itch it. And the worst time is at night time, because sometimes when you're asleep, and I'm sure many people know, you scratch. So unconsciously, completely asleep, you will begin to scratch. So then my mum would buy me these little cotton gloves to protect my fingers. And then sometimes I would cut my nails all the way down so that I wouldn't be able to scratch it as much. Sometimes I would use something else like a ruler or the bottom of a pencil just to kind of scratch it so I'm not, damaging it too much, because my nails can get quite sharp. Um, and then my sister once bought me some silk gloves, and they felt wonderful at night time. So you'd lather your cream on or whatever you had, and you'd put your silk gloves on, and it would just keep that moisture going for the whole night, which was quite good. Um, So yes, I've been down the road of medication and creams and all sorts of things. Now, when I was younger, the thing to do was to go to the doctors, right? That's just what you do. So unfortunately, I was on hydrocortisone cream for many, many years, which a few people might now know that it's not great. In the long run, it can thin out your skin, and it can promote hair growth. So sometimes when my hands would get very, very dry and sore, I remember probably when I was about maybe about 20 or 21, it would start to crack slightly. Um, but then if I would accidentally knock on the side of something and not very hard, it would totally split it open. And I thought, well, this is a bit strange. I've never had this before. And of course, that's just where my skin has really, really thinned out and it's just not as robust as it used to be because I've been on this cream for so long. So I went off that cream um, and went down the road of all sorts of other bits and pieces. But it all came to a head, probably about 6 months ago when it woke me up. My skin woke me up in the middle of the night. I couldn't get back to sleep because it was hot, it was stuffy, it was sweating, it was weeping, it was so itchy. And I had a little cry to myself. um, and I thought, this is not right. Huh? I need to be able to do something about this. And it was actually my eldest sister. She was on this course, this 12-week course. Um, it was actually to do with nutrition because she was exhausted. And this course actually is mainly how to combat fatigue. And she has 4 children. So I won't say any more as to why she's exhausted. Husband, 4 kids, oh my goodness. But I thought nutrition, I mean, a lot of us now know that nutrition and skin, they can go hand in hand. And I had already sort of taken out dairy, I'd taken out sugar because I knew they were sort of my main triggers. But I hadn't really thought, well, okay, you're taking something out of your body. What should you start putting in your body that's going to help with inflammation and just generally helping your skin? So I called up the lady and I said, you're dealing with my sister at the moment because she's tired, but you know, do you help people that have got skin conditions? And she was like, yes, I do. And that's where my skin journey officially began. Yes, I've done lots of years of trying to investigate, but this was the main beginning, and I felt incredibly positive. So her name is Hannah Carr, and it's called The Nourished Body. So it's as I said before, a 12-week course, and she really goes into everything. It's not just, so what's your skin condition? We go right back to the history, how bad it was, why you think it may have caused it, why it would get worse, when it would get worse. And that's when, you realize that skin and stress, that goes together. And I did always notice in the past, if I was really, really overly stressed, my skin would get worse and I would itch. My mum always said, I can tell when you're thinking about something and you're stressed about something because you immediately go to your hand and scratch it. And I know you don't realize you're doing it. So my mum's always good. When she's sitting next to me, she's always like, stop scratching. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay, sorry. Sometimes you have to consciously remember not to itch. Anyway, so yes, I spoke to Hannah and she said, right, let's really get into, when you're stressed, what kind of things are you stressed about? We now know that it's to do with weather as well. But it was nice because so what would be included? You would have like a phone call each week, you'd have like a Zoom meeting, and you'd have like other people who would have other issues. And it was quite nice actually sometimes, especially my sister, she would listen to lots of other people and she'd be like, oh, I didn't realize I had that issue, but actually I do, and that's quite interesting. So yeah, having those group chats I think are quite beneficial. So it's almost like a little bit of a therapy session as well, because she would ask like, how are you emotionally this week? And you're like, oh, well, actually, this happened, and that wasn't particularly great, and then that happened, and I was a bit stressed about that. So you can sort of link back to perhaps, oh, why my skin wasn't so good. Um, and she said, well, what's the level that you want to get at? And one of my things was, I don't want to have to wear gloves when I go and have a shower. So I was having to wear washing up gloves. I had massive, big purple washing up gloves. I would have a hairband that I put at the end so the water wouldn't get through. And that's how I would have my shower. And I thought, this is ridiculous. I want to be able to get into the shower and not have to worry about that. So that was one of my main goals. Obviously, I didn't want it to itch as well. And so I won't divulge all of her secrets, but one thing that I will mention, which I think has just, oh, it's a game changer, because I don't drink coffee either, because that isn't great for my skin, and builder's tea. So I was mainly just on herbal teas, which, it's okay, but it would be nice to have something that's just a little bit extra, a little bit more special. And it's called ceremony cacao. So it's basically like the purest form of cocoa powder. But it comes in like big blocks. And so I think it was my sister who introduced me first when she was going through her sort of journey. She was like, oh, try this. This is part of what Hannah gives you. I was like, oh, okay, give it a go. And it was quite incredible. I think it was only about 3 cups um, that I had drank before I realised that I may be slightly addicted to this stuff. So it's completely natural. It's all organic, doesn't have any chemicals or any bits and pieces in it that you don't want. It is expensive, but honestly, when you have it, it's worth every single penny. And it's actually Hannah's sister who deals with all of that and selling it all in bits and pieces. So I will definitely put a link below on how to order, because it's it's like you're having a hot chocolate, but it's also good for you. So this stuff is just like chock full of good, amazing things for your body. So it's got antioxidants in, it's got loads of vitamins, it's got iron, it's got magnesium. And actually, I've got my cup here. So I'm going to have my ceremonial cacao with you guys today. And when you actually stare at the top of it, you can almost see all of the sort of natural oils that come to the top. It is very, very rich. So you can either put like honey with it, or maple syrup, or agave syrup, or anything like that. Not much, just, you just need a little bit. And it was interesting. I saw some, I'll put it up here, some reviews, and one of them said, oh, I've only had this, cacao stuff for, not long, and my skin's already getting better. And I love the one that said, yeah, I tried to go back to normal hot chocolate and it didn't work. It was disgusting. And I thought, yeah, I bet it is. Because they're so sickly, some of the like the Cadbury's hot chocolates and stuff. Yes, they can be nice, but once you've had this, you're like, but why on earth would I go back to anything else? Because you know that this is doing you good. Not only is it, I mean, I see it as a treat, even though it's an incredibly healthy treat. But you can do all sorts of things. You can add cinnamon in. I added some like orange peel and soaked that for quite a while. So you had that rich, rich taste, but then that little bit of like an orange tinge to it as well. So you can sort of make it up as you go along. Makes me so happy. And it says it has got dopamine. So that's when it releases your feel good energy, and you suddenly feeling like bliss and happy. That's what the drink does. It releases all the good stuff in your body, so you're happy when you have it. And it for me, it does exactly the same as coffee. When you have your caffeine and you're all like, oh, you're all buzzed. That's exactly what this stuff does. But obviously it's, slightly better for you. So she's also got a Facebook page, because she doesn't just do nutrition. No, no, no. She does yoga as well. So when you're on this course, there are loads of videos that you can tap into. She does breath work, the importance of that can really help with inflammation. There's one breath work which is quite interesting. I won't show you now because you have to do something funny with your face. But I do like doing that at the beginning of my yoga. She also has videos on obviously like meal planning and the good foods and loads of recipes that you can get. I've printed out so many. In fact, I recommend if you do go on this course to just have a folder ready to go. So I've printed out pretty much everything that I possibly could. Now you can print out each week the sort of not just the meal plan, but like what did I learn this week? How am I feeling this week? I didn't necessarily have the time to fill in all of that. So I just printed out all of the recipe plans. And every time she recommended me trying something or buying something, I would just write it down because I knew that I would forget. And so every time she would say, right, let's put you on this and let's put you on probiotics. Now, that's the other really amazing game changer. There are all sorts of different ones out there, so she'll obviously recommend the one that she thinks is best for you. But when that got sent to my house, there was a little leaflet inside explaining exactly what it was. I was like, great, that's going in my folder. Um, I bought something else and that came with a leaflet and why it was good. That went in my folder. Because for me, I'm not very good at like remembering everything, and there is a lot of stuff that she will recommend to you, which is wonderful. Um, Obviously, there are some things you're like, that didn't work, so I don't need to try that. That was amazing. This was incredible, so that's what I'm going to stick with. So it's also a journey that you've got to listen to your own body as well, and sort of take into account of how am I feeling? Is that beneficial? And staying motivated. What was wonderful was the fact that my sister and I, we've already been quite good with diets in general, quite strict when it comes to the sugar and the dairy. Not to mention, I do break it every now and again. I mean, we all need to. If someone offers you a cake that they've lovingly made, I'm not going to turn it down. But it does mean that when we were going on this course, it made it so much easier because Hannah was like, are you okay or willing to take this out of your diet or try this? And we were like, yeah, 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 yeah. Straight away, we took everything out of her diet that she had to. I did exactly the same. I was like, it got to the point where it was necessary for me to do this because, yeah, it was horrible. And you might have seen in a few of my other videos, especially if they were hair videos, where my hands would just be constantly on show. I mean, you may not notice, but you will now if you went back and you go, oh yeah, there's quite a big red patch there, and oh yeah, she's got some on her hand there. Because some of the photos here, it started one year just a very small patch, and then as the photos progress, it just got bigger and bigger and huge, and the same on the other side. And so I was determined, absolutely determined. So, yes, I would take on board everything that she would say to me. And one of the main companies that you can get it from is the Natural Dispensary. So, that's an online company where you can get all of your probiotics and all your special other bits and pieces. And Hannah will give you a code as well, so you can get a bit of a discount, which is great. Um, Now, the cacao is quite expensive, as I said before, but when you break it down, because I mean, you can have it every single day, but I also have this other special tea that's quite good for my hands, so I alternate, and that actually makes it last longer. So I'm not having to buy it every month, I'm sort of buying every other month, and then when I work out the price, I'm like, actually, that's not too bad. And I know that it's good for me as well. So yes, that's my indulgent treat that I am more than happy to pay for. But it's quite funny when you have friends round and they smell it and they're like, "Oh, that smells nice. Oh, could I have some hot chocolate?" And you're like, "Yeah, okay, just a little bit," because you've got a cup there and you're like, "This cup is probably worth like £4.50." So yes, giving it away is like, well, it's not just Cadbury's hot chocolate, and if you're not going to appreciate it, I'm not going to give you any. That's when you realise you're addicted to it, when you don't actually want to share it. And I would would say I'm a fairly sharing person, but when it comes to this, you're like, you can have a sip of mine, and if you don't like it, I'm not making you a cup. It's doing the trick already. It's making me very happy. So, as I said before, skin and stress can go together. And it was actually my mum sometimes that would notice, your skin's not good right now and you're not in a good mood. And I was like, oh, yeah, but that's not because of my skin. That's because of, um, oh, I don't know. Actually, everything's kind of okay in my life right now. Why am I not in a good mood? I used to just think, I've got to get on with it and it should be absolutely fine. I'm living with it now. And that's kind of it. But yes, the mood swings were awful because I didn't realise that I was actually putting, I call it skin stress. So, can you imagine in the winter, what do you want to wear? Nice big jumpers that come right to here. Anyone who has eczema, the thought of having wool anywhere near their eczema is just horrendous because it makes the itching so much worse. Cotton is okay, but if you've got anything woolen here, it's just awful. So, especially if it's sort of weepy and then it goes crusty. What else do you wear in the winter? Gloves. You want to protect your hands, but then it would stick. And so, let's say you're in a cafe and you need to take them off. You'd be peeling off these gloves. Not very nice. So what I'd have to do is I would either wear the silk gloves or the cotton gloves underneath. So then I'd have to buy winter gloves that were size medium in order to get over the gloves that I already had that were already on. So it's all that added stress that I hadn't realised, and I was like, actually, that's quite interesting. Yes, I mean, if I was going on a date, I would be like, oh God, maybe I shouldn't wear gloves because then if I take the gloves off and it's going to peel off and that's not going to be very attractive. So maybe I won't wear gloves, but then they're going to get. And I thought, oh, I'm actually overthinking this quite a lot, and the skin now is affecting me. And that's when I realised this is not good. And actually, I think we can do something about it. So Hannah was like, yes, gut. You've got to have gut health. Basically, your skin flaring up is your gut going, I'm not happy with you. We need to sort something out. So, what I also loved about talking to Hannah was the fact that she cared, right? It wasn't just, well, this is the work that I do and that's kind of it. She really wants to help people, and you can feel that emanating from her. And she really wants to, get down to the nitty gritty of, well, I did some research and I think we should try this. And, so yeah, you're definitely not on this journey on your own. Absolutely not. She is there with you every step of the way. And you can contact her, text her, not any time during the day, obviously, like work hours, but anything to do with, let's say you are doing it because you're exhausted. I'm feeling really tired today. I don't know why. And she'll be like, right, it might be your iron levels. Let's try and get that back up and working. So, she's just very, very supportive. And I would recommend this skin journey or fatigue journey to anyone. And of course, 12 weeks is quite a long course, but I think it's, again, worth every penny what you can get out of it. Of course, there are all these courses online doing all the yoga and the breath work and, all your meal plans. She'll give you a meal plan. If you're, I mean, one week I was like, I haven't done my meal plan. I can't even think about putting a meal plan together. And she was like, no worries, I'll send you one. And you've got it there and you're like, ah, brilliant. Um, so yes, I think it's definitely with all of the work that she's obviously put into bettering herself, to knowing about nutrition. And again, what's been so great about my sister doing it is we've also been able to contact each other. And the first thing I called up was like, that hot chocolate that you introduced me to like a month ago? I'm completely addicted to it. And she was like, I know, it's amazing. So we've had a few sort of moments and videos where we've been together, or I would go over and be like, oh, should we have a drink together? And it is a bit of a ceremony. It's great. So on her Facebook page, you can have these ceremonies with her. You can either do it online or you can do it face to face. So you have like a little part. Well, obviously face to face only if you're near where she lives. Um, but yeah, you can have this sort of, cacao party together, and it's just a way of chill, relax, taking yourself out of life just for a little while, and to, maybe talk about, how you're feeling or what you're up to. And this could just be on your own. I love sitting there with my drink on my own and thinking, how do I feel now? And what is my relationship to my skin? This is something she put me onto. I'm like, what do you mean relationship with my skin? Like, well, it's part of me. She was like, no, no. How do you feel when you look down at your hands? And I was like, well, they're horrible. I hate them. And she said, right, that's what we need to change. Because it's not your hands that are flaring up, it's your gut, it's what's inside, it's your stomach telling you something's not right. But you need to be good and kind to your hands. I thought, oh, actually, that's interesting. I hadn't even thought of that, of trying to have a better relationship with my skin. You know, I would just look down and be like, it's horrible. And I guess if you always have that negativity, that's also not good, and it's not going to be great for you. So, I mean, obviously, I've already shown you, but I mean, this is what my hands now look like. Ooh la la. So, yes, I can actually go and have a shower without having to put any gloves on, which has been incredible. So, throughout this, I have also been, using some cream as well. And she will tell you all about the products that you can use, and that, things that you can try. She might mention like essential oils and things as well. And there was a book that she recommended to me, because my mental health is, I would say it's pretty damn good at the moment. But everyone has a past, everyone has a childhood. And although I would always say that mine was pretty damn awesome, um, there were still skills that I didn't learn, and I'm sure many others didn't learn. Our parents do the best that they can, but there are still triggers that I've noticed in my adult life, that will revert me back to being a 5-year old or a 10-year-old child. And those are the things that I don't really want to carry on into my further adulthood. And so I did mention this to Hannah. I said, these are the issues that I have. And I really want to not combat them, but I want to learn the skills in order for me to progress as a person, because we're always learning. And I know many people are like, well, this is just the way I am. This is just the way I am now, and that's it. Whereas I was like, no, no, I think I'm quite determined, to, yeah, forget about my past. Want to cherish all the incredible memories, absolutely, but I don't want to have these triggers anymore that might affect future relationships. So I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. I'm not just going on a skin journey, but I'm kind of going on this sort of mental health journey as well. And I know that that's linked to my skin. I absolutely know if I can't handle a situation very well, I will then become stressed, and it will show on my skin. So it's been amazing because, I sort of finished this course to do with my skin, but she recommended this book. So now I'm sort of, you know, on a mental health kind of journey after the skin. And so it's the transition has been incredible. So yes, I'm very, very happy and excited to kind of share my journey with you, because if anyone else is really struggling and needs some help, then, I really recommend it. As I say, you've got to have the motivation though. So I was very happy when I started to cut out alcohol. And it was great because she said, now, if you're able to just lower your consumption of alcohol, maybe like 1 or 2 glasses per week. I was like, oh no, it's fine. It's not an issue. I've cut it out. I think because you do get to a certain age where you're like, I still like drinking, but I don't need to do it as much. So that was quite interesting for me, because I think now if I'm going to drink alcohol, I'm going to make it worthwhile. It's going to be because there is an incredible night out, or a party or something. But like during the week, it's not there anymore. There's not that kind of, oh, let's have a glass of this or have a glass of that. I'm like, I'm quite happy with my hot chocolate. So again, I knew that one of my main triggers was alcohol. So what I drink is vodka and gin because it doesn't have sugar in, and I have it with soda water. The world's most boringest, if that's even a word, drink, right? No one's going to go, oh, I'm so excited to have this gin and soda water. No. So, there wasn't really much of an interest anyway. I didn't feel too bad. I was like, I'm okay if I don't have that incredibly boring drink tonight. That's all right with me. But alcohol is still alcohol. So even the night after, if I'd had, 3 or 4 vodkas or whatever, I would still feel my skin just a little bit itchy. But back in the day when I was having wine and cocktails and beer that was just full of sugar as well, my skin would show up the very next day and just be really inflamed, really red. Whereas if I have a bit of dairy, but then I don't for the next 2 days, it's fine. If I have dairy for 3 days straight, then it will show up. So you see, you can have little treats every now and again. You've just got to work out your body and what it's saying to you. So that is the end of today. I'm sorry it's taken me so long to come back with another video. As I said, it's been quite stressful, but I mean, my face, I don't have anything on my face anymore because I had like quite a red patch here as well, which was so random because usually I get it all the way down here. So I was like, why on earth is it coming there? But don't forget, when you're trying to detox your body, it does get worse before it gets better. And so there was a transition period where I was like, it's okay, I know it's getting worse, but I know it's going to get better. But also, I know that it's always going to be there. It's not like I'm going to be eczema free forever. But I think I now have learned the skills. Hannah has taught me the skills in order to deal with it and know how to get it back to being good again, especially if I've broken my diet a little bit, which I'm sure it will happen at some point. But all in all, I just feel like a different person and refreshed. And I look down at my hands now and I smile. I've never had that before. I'm actually genuinely happy to look down at my skin and be like, oh my God, there's nothing there. It's incredible. So yeah, it's been quite amazing. Well, anyway, thank you for joining me on this little journey today as well. I'm going to leave you with all of the links down below. So please look into it if any of you have any skin trouble or you are exhausted and you just don't know why. There could be many factors, and it might be good for you to learn what they are. So until next time.